Hello and welcome to Baggies View. I'm Paul Bradley and I'm joined on the phone now by West Bromwich Albion correspondent Chris Lipkowski. Hi Chris.
Hi.
Well, we're going to take a look back at the beginning of the season really for West Brom and how they've done so far. First of all, just tell us what your verdict is really on how West Brom have got in both in the Premier League and the Carling Cup.
Well, of course, they're at the Carling Cup having lost to Everton after extra time, which was a disappointing result because they actually played quite well on the night. In terms of the Premier League, they haven't really started motoring yet. They've been very disjointed, very lacking in any sort of cohesion or fluency, if you like. They're certainly not playing the way they were last year. I think last week's game at Sunderland, the second half was, the first 15 minutes was very encouraging. But they're almost a case of scoring too early, I think, and Sunderland have got some very good individual players, it must be said, despite their recent form, obviously have the quality to come back. But I think that in terms of the start of the season, if you take the last 4 games, it's probably where they expected to be. The first 3 games are the ones which really reflect on their league position, if you like, which is just outside the bottom 3. To get 0 points from the first 3 games meant they were always going to be towards the bottom coming into this stage of the season. There are occasional signs of improvement, but there's a lot more work to do. There's players who are off form at the moment. Peter Odom-Wingy, for instance, isn't firing at all. Graham Dorrans, who was very disappointed against Sunderland. But there are players who are slightly showing signs that they might be coming into some form, or at least have the ability to turn it on when necessary. Shane Long, for instance, played very well at Sunderland. Gareth McCauley also did reasonably well, as did Chris Blunt and James Morrison in the first half. So there are shoots of optimism, but they could really do with 2 weeks on the training ground rather than an international break right now.
And in terms of up front, you mentioned there Shane Long and Odom-Wingy. It is a bit of a tale of 2 strikers there. One who's had an extremely good start to the season, and the other who's really struggled to find some real form that he had last season.
Well, I think it must be pointed out that Shane Long, although he has scored 3 goals, he did go through a little bit of a dip in his own fortunes before last week. The sign of a good player in many ways, and a sign of a confident one, is one who can pick the ball up some 20 yards from goal, drag a defender, or drag the ball past the defender and finish with the kind of coolness that he demonstrated last week at Sunderland. Odom-Wingy, as you rightly point out, has not been playing well at all. Some of his decision making last week was awful, really, when there were opportunities where he could have released players into space and created opportunities for others. He kept hold of the ball and lost position, and their partnership isn't working yet. Interestingly, a website that devotes itself to tactics and tactical analysis recently pointed out that they exchanged 1 pass throughout the game last week against Sunderland. If that's the case, then that's a really poor return on their partnership, and it's something that needs working on. I think as individuals, they've both got technique, ability, they're more than worthy of playing at this level, but as a partnership they need to work on that. They need to gel, there needs to be an understanding, they need to know who's making which one where, and the movement needs to be better, and that's really something that isn't there at the moment.
And just looking forward, you'd expect that both of their input and their goals is going to be pretty important coming up. It's another little tricky run for West Brom, Wolves and Villa local derbies, then Liverpool and Arsenal. How do you see West Brom kind of preparing themselves for that, and what do they need to do to improve as well?
Well, they need more fluency, really. I mean, there's a lot made of the formation, and while I would agree that they did look comfortable last season, certainly towards the end of that campaign, there were signs against Sunderland that they were starting to get it together, playing the way they have been this season in that 4-man midfield and 2-man attack. Wolves are going to come and they're going to defend. They mustn't lose another game. Mick McCarthy, so I think lost the last 3 or 4 games. It's a bad record. he can't come away from the Hawthorns without a point. I don't think their fans would be satisfied by that, and so he's going to make his own team very, very difficult to play against. Wolves always are very difficult to play against in that respect, and Albion are going to have to be on the best. They're going to have to raise their levels of intensity, energy, and play with, or at least try and pick Wolves apart. They've got the players to do so. It's up to them to show it, really. And as you rightly say, after that they play Villa, which again will bring more demands. McLeish, for all the criticism he's getting from a section of Villa fans, he will make Villa harder to play against. And it's going to be another test for Albion. Certainly the next 4 games with Liverpool and Arsenal coming after that are tough. But these next 2, I think, are going to be games where Albion fans will identify and hope that they can at least get 4 points out of those.
Okay, and just very quickly, lastly, today, do you think Roy Hodgson will be looking to strengthen again coming the January transfer window, or is it just too early to say right now?
Well, I think it's inevitable that any manager wants to strengthen. Every manager you speak to is always one player away from winning the squad they want. They have been very strongly linked with Scott Allen. In fact, more than linked. They have already had an unsuccessful bid for the Dundee United midfield, and he's an interesting case. I suspect that if he is pursued, he'll be very much a player that's going to be developed. The case with him is that he's out of contract at the end of the season. If he moves outside of Scotland, the Dundee United will be entitled to about 450,000. Albion have tried to get him already by agreeing a pre-contractual agreement, if you like, to ensure they get him before everyone else. That's been rejected. I suspect Albion will go back in for him at some point. Do they need to strengthen elsewhere? Well, the very fact that Roy did try and bring in a centre-half before the window closed underlines that perhaps that is going to be an area that he wishes to improve. Left-back, Nicky Shaw is not playing particularly well. Still some doubts over Joe Matip, whether he can consistently play at that level, we don't know. That might be one area they look at. The left-back centre-half role is still maybe a little bit weak to sustain over a period of a season. Things aren't going too badly in terms of centre-halves at the moment. They've got McCauley, they've got Tamas back, they've got Dawson back, and Jonas Olsen is fit. If they pick up an injury or two, they're going to have to look at that position during January, definitely. And I think the left-back role has been weakened following the departure of Malecek.
Okay, Chris, well, thanks for your thoughts today, and thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week with more Baggies View.